All right, here we are. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of TSG and Scoriox presents Augment. Now, today we have got some awesome topics ready for you. There's going to be some awesome discussion, mostly around the land sale. We all know that Deraji has done a lot of preparation on the land sale already, like myself and TSG, of course, and many of the content creators, but Deraji's definitely going that extra mile. So we definitely want to pick his brain about this whole slew of topics. So a big thanks to my co-host TSG for coming on with me again today. It's on my channel today, but it's going to be on TSG's next week, so definitely subscribe to him. All the links in the description of everyone's different channels and places you can find them are down there. Our DMs are always open as well. So definitely thank you so much for joining us. So now let me introduce Deraji. Now, Deraji has made a bunch of articles for the Illuvium website, and he's made a couple of calculators and things as well that you guys have seen in the staking Discord. So obviously I have a special place in my heart for those calculators. And yeah, Deraji has been helping out the community for a very long time. He's one of the OGs, I believe. And he's, it's a huge pleasure to have him on today. I know you guys really like seeing him on the different channels and chatting about this sort of stuff. So we definitely wanted to have him on, and he jumped straight at the chance. So we're really appreciative. So Deraji, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into Illuvium and all that sort of stuff?
Yes. So started with the project back, I say, investing in July, aware of it in May, and really kind of my background is new to crypto, but like longtime investor, longtime gamer. And the more that I started learning about crypto in 2021, the more that it started to make sense to me from a technology standpoint, because coming at it from the traditional investor side, it's like, hey, stay away from it. It's fake. There's nothing to do here. But being a nerd, I started learning the tech behind it and starting to think about where does this actually apply. And being a gamer, it's like, okay, the ownership of assets, this NFT with an actual function behind it makes a ton of sense. And then I started researching different projects. So looked at Axie, looked at a handful of other things, and found this thing called Illuvium. I was like, okay, cool. These guys seem to actually be producing something that I want to be involved in. And so the more that I learned about it, the more that I got into the liquidity pool side, understanding the tokenomics. And as I was learning, I joined Discord and just saw the gaps in knowledge and the number of other folks that were like me. And like, let me start producing some written content, some articles, some calculators to help other people with what I'm seeing here. And it's gone on for 9+ months, getting more and more in, drinking more of the Kool-Aid, and just love hanging out with other knowledgeable folks and having these chats.
Yeah. So were you actively looking like while you found out about the whole space, like were you actively looking and doing research, or did kind of Illuvium just present itself to you through like algorithms or stuff like that?
It is literally just like Google and Reddit searches and just coming across different things. And it's like, okay, this one's cool.
Do you remember what kind of things you were searching? Like just like play to earn games? Like do you remember the type of stuff you were searching?
It would have to have been just like play to earn or like gaming NFTs. Like I was not that knowledgeable at the time and just happened to luck across Illuvium. And I distinctly remember sitting with a couple friends of mine that also do investing. It's like, hey, I found this thing. I kind of want to get involved in it. And I remember saying the token's at $80 and I still didn't jump at it. And a couple weeks later, it's like, oh, it'll come back down, and eventually give up. Like, okay, now got to get in.
Yeah. And so when you say, sorry, Scary, when you say that you were investing beforehand, was that more in stocks? Like, what do you?
Yeah, so I'm in the U.S. and so more traditional equities. 100% stocks before that. Had started a little bit of crypto, and so it was like DCAing into Ethereum, a little bit of Chainlink at the time, and that was kind of just my intro into learning the application.
So I'm actually curious. Just one last question, and I'll throw it back to Scoriox, because I always find this super interesting. So for yourself, you were 100% in stocks and equities. You've now switched over to incorporated some crypto. If you're willing to share, can I ask, 9 months into the whole journey, what is your allocation like split between stocks and crypto?
In everything obviously is down across the board for the past couple of weeks, but I'd say it's in the 10 to 15% range crypto versus 85-90% still in traditional equities.
Right. So you're still very heavy on traditional equities. Can I ask why that is? Sorry, I feel like I said that was the last question.
Part of it, honestly,
never
is it's in the US. A lot of it is in retirement accounts, and crypto just isn't an option. And so, and that's also the safer bet for my wife and I. Is like, okay, I don't want to take too big of a risk, but this is the money. It's like, never invest anything that you're not willing to lose. This is the money that if it went away tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, cool, that was fun and interesting, but doesn't impact us long term.
Yeah, fair play. All right, sorry, Scoriox.
No. All I was going to say was I forgot to shill our other channel. So we also have a channel called Augment Clips. The link is in the description down below. It's just where we chop up these episodes into smaller clips that you can just go and watch over there. Very simple. There's not really much more to it. It's really
daily
good.
Clips.
It's really easy. Yeah. So if you miss one of these and you're only interested in a certain amount of topics and things, there's a really easy way to get into it over there. So so after all that, so I think I have a similar story to Deraji. I had something that I wanted to show people and give to people, and I started making videos. I mean, it's very I think that's a good thing about the community. I think that's really what you want to look for in a community that believes in the project and is there to help it out. I think founders and everyone else have really fostered that. I was going to say something else about crypto, but I can't remember.
One of the blessings of being live.
The community really is still a differentiating factor. And so hang out in Discord a lot. And there's just so many people that want to teach, want to help. And you see new people coming in asking the same questions, but everybody treats them very kindly and helps them along. And it's not like that's a dumb question. So just a very supportive, very helpful community.
Actually, that is the other thing I wanted to say. I just remembered that you talk about how you went around searching for different crypto projects and you eventually settled on Illuvium. I think I did do a similar thing at one point. I probably didn't go as deep as you. I looked very surface level. But I jumped into a bunch of different Discords. And what happened was I found the character leaks in Illuvium, and that was what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for fancy CGI creatures. I was looking for a game that I could see was in progress. That is something that is very rare in games in general. And you'll find a lot of the crypto games and a lot of games in general, what you will find as their trailers and stuff is concept art. And I can't stand that. That's not a trailer to me. I mean, concept art is great for a lot of things, but not as a proof of concept or a proof of work or anything like that. And Illuvium, the first thing I saw was a proof of this existing and it being built and pretty much already done in some ways, and that was what was like, okay, well, this is for real then. I want to see more and I'm not going to jump all in instantly or anything. I want to do my own research. But that proved to me that they've got something and they're here for the long term, which you're going to see a lot of crypto projects die in the next 2 or 3 years. And even now. So TSG, do you want to lead us into the council?
And actually just touching on that last thing, I think that's exactly why having the private beta right now is so exciting. Because it's just like what you're saying. It's like the character leaks on like just an insane other level. Like people can play a game. It's like, it's not just a concept anymore. It's like, you can play the game. You can see the actual idea. You can actually get your hands on it. And just the proof of concept is now a real thing now. So I think it's crazy. And so moving on to the next question, the election. Obviously, I've been doing the interview, so I'm excited about that. And I'm actually excited for this election. There's a lot of people that have thrown their names into the mix. And actually, for those of you guys that don't know, Scoriox doesn't want to promote this by himself, but I want to put it out there. Scoriox is also running for election. So right now on the channel, we have 2 nominees, and we're going to make them fight to the death. No, we're not actually.
And Bettermore in chat.
Bettermore in chat. Yo, let's go. I'm the only I'm not involved. I'll moderate. But no, Doraji. So I wanted to ask, man. You didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't put your name in the mix last election, correct?
I didn't. So I did in the December one. Missed this last one. Had some other things going on, and so for me, it is a commitment. So if I win, I want to be able to have the time, have the ability to serve the community. And I didn't think in the last one that I would have that time. This time, some things have opened up. It's like, if I get elected, I can commit to this for 3 months.
Awesome. So that's okay. Because I was going to ask you, why didn't you do that last election? And obviously, so for this election, why did you decide to put aside from the fact that you have time now, and the ability to commit, why did you put your name in the mix? Is there something in the current council that you see that you want to improve, that you think needs to be changed? Or is there just a different perspective that you wish to present that you think isn't being presented right now?
I think just participating in some of the IIP channel chats, that I do offer a different perspective, and just kind of my style of being data driven, very logical, and the ability to kind of distill the arguments for and against. And when you release the council interview that you and I did, like you're going to see, like it really is coming back to trying to distill complex ideas. And I think I do that very well. And I offer a different perspective on it that I really pride myself of, aside from being associated with the Infoluvial guys. I'm not in any guilds. I'm not tied to any other crypto projects. And so there's really no conflict of interest for me. And I think that's a concern for some members of the community, as we have guild leaders, different people involved in other crypto projects, founders. It's like, okay, there potentially are conflicts here over time. And so to be somebody that is self-declared, like, I assure you I'm not, I don't know what I can do to the community other than trust me, but be transparent on that. I think that's something that I want to offer.
Yeah. And actually, I forgot to mention, so we had our interview 4 hours ago. And I'm going to be putting that up straight away. As soon as this episode is done, I'll be making that live. So anyone that is watching this with Deraji right now, head on over to that, and it's a really good conversation. And I shouldn't promote it too heavily, as I'm trying to be objective, but it is a very good conversation. Cool. Scoriox, is there anything you want to touch on with the election on your end? Why did you put your name in the mix?
Honestly, halfway through the nominations, or towards the end of the nominations last time, I had quite a few people come to me and ask me if I was running for council. I had quite a few people that thought I would be a good fit and thought I would do a good job or whatever else. And they thought I should be running. And I'm like, oh, well, I never really considered it, because I never really saw that as, I didn't really see myself as a way I could help. But after seeing this past election, all the proposals and things, I always have so many ideas about everything. I think I really could add a lot to the conversation. And there is always a lot I want to add, especially with tokenomics and things. I know that a lot happens behind the scenes, and maybe I just don't see that. But I feel like sometimes that sort of stuff isn't touched on as much as I would personally like it to be. So I just feel like I'd be able to help out and put in my own thoughts and things like that. And I don't know, a lot of people wanted me to run for council, and there was other people that I was backing, and I was like, yeah, well, look, I mean, next epoch, I will run, and we'll see how I go. And I definitely want to try my best and help out.
Yeah, cool.
I want to do my part. That's all.
Yeah.
I think a rotating council is always. I think a rotating council is always nice. Get a few new people in there, a few new ideas. Otherwise, your ideas start to repeat themselves, and I'm not a big fan of that. This actually flies a little bit against what Deraji said with the guilds and stuff like that. I mean, he's right 100% that you don't want too many outside incentives and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can vote anyone out when you want. So if there is stuff like that happening, you can get rid of it. And on the second side of it, you should rotate through that sort of stuff. Maybe you have a few guild representatives in, but they're always a different guild every epoch until eventually you're repeating and stuff like that. I don't know. I just think a variety of different ideas every epoch is always nice. That's all.
Yeah. So Doraji, I know, you're not actually a part of any guild. And do you remain to stay like that? Do you remain to stay neutral? What's your reason for doing so?
I would say yes. And it's for this exact reason. And so I think I can be more useful as a neutral consultant. And I think that's a unique role that people are going to seek versus, okay, what's this person thinking about? Are they have ulterior motives? Like, no, I think Infoluvial is a good spot that they try to be neutral, biased, informational, and help anybody. And that's really who I am to begin with. And so I don't need kind of conflicts with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was actually talking to Vedamore about this as well. Because I'm very much the same way. Like, I don't plan to be associated with any guild, like directly anyway. Like, I'm fine to put a spotlight on different guilds and showcase them and put them out there. Also, I think the whole idea of if we stay completely neutral in that middle and non-affiliated, I think it holds a lot more weight when we do put a light on the other guilds, because it's not like we have to. It's because we're doing it out of choice, and I think it just holds a lot more weight. So if we say, oh, this guild is doing a really good thing, or this person is doing a really good thing, again, it's not like, oh man, he has to say that because he's part of the team. He actually believes that, and I just think it's more genuine in my opinion. So I think that neutral route is a good place. And again, it's not like Scoriox is not throwing shade at anyone that is affiliated. It's just like, yeah, everyone has their different approach, right? Yeah, cool. Doraji, I wanted to ask you, man, because obviously how long have you been investing for? Like, because it seems like you're pretty experienced in this whole thing.
Illuvium or just
just in general, like actually just in life, yeah.
I'm an old guy around here, so it's been
that's why I'm asking. Yeah. So like, I wanted to ask you, because you must have like gone through a lot more than we have, and with sorry, I don't mean to say that like you're old, but I just mean your experience. You've definitely seen more than we have. No,
I just love this segue. Go on.
Right. Because you know what's coming. So with the state of the market that's going on right now, man, with like stocks, crypto, all of these things that are going on, how do you see it? Because again, like I said, you've had more experience. Like, what are your thoughts on it all? How do you plan to act in this like thing that's going on? Are you planning on buying consistently, DCAing? Are you trying to go heavier on crypto? Where are you at?
I think that's the biggest thing is I am a DCA guy. And so I have just certain things that are set up, automated. Crypto, I do a little bit more manual at this point, but I have my standard 3 DCAs, and Friday is my buy day on crypto. And other than that, it's like, what is my investment thesis? What's my time horizon? And did something appreciably change? And so I'm a Warren Buffett guy, and it's the invest in stuff that if the market closed for 10 years, you're still happy with your position.
Yeah.
And I'm not that close to retirement yet. And so it's like 10, 15 years out is when I want this money. I'm again, not investing anything that is going to change my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, invest in stuff that I trust, that I think is going to work for the long term, and keep buying while it's cheap. And so if you don't change that, you don't get caught up in, okay, let me pour more in now, and then you're catching falling knives, or you're aping. It's like, okay, it's going to keep going up, and then you pour more in. Like, be disciplined is the biggest thing. And I know this is contrary to a lot of folks that I saw the 100% ILV in the chat. No, I can't do it, because all of this really is for a single goal in mind, which is the life that I want to live and having the resources that I need to do that. And I don't need the highest score. I just want the probability of success of that. And my perspective, DCA is the way to go that.
Yeah. Because I pretty much think the same thing. And it's exactly what I said in the last episode as well with Kyle. I was just saying, like, man, people want to get rich quickly, like, too often. And it's just like, man, relax. Like, especially like if you're saying that, like, can I just ask how old you are? You don't have to say if you don't want to.
I'm 41.
41, yeah. So context, you're not that old. Like 41 is still young.
For crypto, I'm super old though.
41 is all right. But I mean, like, again, if you're saying that, like, take your time with it, like, and just, you don't need the highest score. Like, imagine, like, again, I'm 29. I think Scoriox, you're 24?
25.
25, yeah. Like, man, we have so much time. You know, like, we could just DCA, do it properly. But also because we are younger, we can take a bit more risk because we have a lot more time to recuperate all of those things. So
actually, just quickly returning to you saying that 41 is old for crypto. I think my channel typically focuses on more the investing side of crypto and stuff like that. And my audience begs to differ.
Is your audience around that age?
100%.
No, I say it a bit facetiously because I have my kind of side groups of folks that we talk to, and it really is, it's almost this bimodal distribution that there's a bunch of folks that are right around my age, and then there's a group that's kind of your age. And for some reason, I just haven't connected with too many folks in the middle. But there is a gap in like life experience, and the same thing for you guys of like, you can afford to make some mistakes, learn from it, and adjust as long as you don't do anything that's too crazy.
Yeah. You're right. There is a gap in the middle. There's those that are me and TSG's age. There's this gap, and then there's your age, Deraji, and that's really weird. We should go into that another time. But that is a really interesting one if anyone was interested.
Yeah. I was gonna ask before we move on to the next thing. I'm actually really curious. Doraji, you said, and because I really believe in this as well. And this obviously, none of this is financial advice. We always have to say that. But you said something about the whole idea of if the markets were closed and everything was gone away for like 10 years, would you still want to own those assets? I'll say assets. If you're willing to share, obviously I'm going to assume Illuvium is one of those assets you'd be happy to hold. If you're willing to share, I'd love to know like 3 assets that you hold that you feel that way about, like strongly about. If you don't want to share, that's completely fine. I can, if you don't want to share, I can share mine or whatever, but yeah.
No, I'll give you. So I basically have hit the level of investment that I want in Illuvium. I did add a little bit more in the recent dip into the SLP, but it's not part of my normal DCA. My normal DCA is Ethereum, Solana, and Aave.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's mostly low index or low cost index funds and just a handful of other things like Google, Amazon.
Yeah.
Like those are things that I'm fairly confident at this point will be around in 10 years.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we have almost exactly the same portfolio. Yeah. And Scoriox, do you actually, I don't know if I've asked you this, do you still hold any like traditional equity, any stocks?
I've held stocks since I was 15.
Jesus.
I bought a handful when I was 15, and then I bought another handful right before I got into crypto. I think I was 19 or 20, and I haven't touched them since.
How did you get into that at 15?
I don't know. I've just always been interested in it. My father has pretty much all my parents' wealth is in stocks and stuff like that. So I don't know. He never really taught it to me, but I was always interested in it because I kind of knew some of that in the back of my mind. I'm like, why not? I don't know. I just felt like it. I mean, that's the sort of person I am. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But I bought some Apple stock when I was 15.
Yeah, sure. Good shout.
Clearly a good investment. I bought Apple and I think a little bit of Microsoft.
Yeah. Look at you, Warren Buffett over here.
And since then, I think I got some AMD once when they announced that the chips were going into both PS4, PS5, and Xbox, because I think consoles will die eventually, but not yet. So I thought AMD had a good play there. And I think I had some little Sony and a handful of other gaming tech type stocks at that point as well, because I always believed in investing in what you believe in. And games is something I don't know games super well, but it's something I know better than I know other stuff. Let's put it that way. So I guess that brings us to Illuvium, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you were exposed when you were young. And what about you, Deraji? Like, what was your, like, were you exposed from your parents as well? Like, how did that?
Not really. I've been largely making this up as I went, and definitely made mistakes in my 20s and kind of similar to you guys, but just very different categories of where I learned and screwed up and adjusted.
Can you share one of those screw ups?
I would say probably I can't remember anything individually, and it was nothing huge, especially looking back. Like I've always been relatively conservative, but I say spreading yourself too thin is probably the biggest challenge of like, oh, this looks really cool, I'll buy that. This looks really cool, I'll buy that. And especially when it's stuff that you're still learning and you don't necessarily have that 10-year commitment, it's really tough to track it. And especially when we talk crypto, how quickly things change. Like I have a handful of other things, but it's try to keep it to less than 8. And what I'm buying literally is just the 3 because it's so hard to pay attention to that many other projects. And it's the same thing with equities. It's like, if I'm focused on crypto right now, GameFi space, and trying to find new opportunities here, I don't have time to look at traditional equities markets. And so that's why it is just the DCA into buy the whole market and be confident in 15 years it'll be higher than where it is today, because that's what I care about.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. I bought 20 or 30 cryptos when I got in, or over the period of 6 months. I had that many at some point. And that was probably the biggest mistake I made. I don't recommend anyone do that. I think find a few projects you really believe in and a few teams you really believe in, and that's all that matters. So you guys said your 3 that you're focusing on at the moment. The 3 I've decided to focus on. I've lost a lot of money in crypto, so I really don't have that much left. Anyways, it's mostly in ILV.
So I shouldn't laugh.
But from now, what I'm trying to focus on is Ethereum. Is probably going to be not a majority. ILV will probably be a majority just because it'll go up over time. But Ethereum is something I want to invest heavily in overall. And IMX and ILV. They're the 3 that I'm focused on. Ironically, all 3 are used in the ecosystem for Illuvium, but that's okay.
Have you started because we talked about it last time, have you put some time into the IMX research?
Not heaps yet. No.
Not heaps yet, yeah.
What I did build recently, and I'm hopefully going to get that video out next week. I've been sick this week, so there was a lot of stuff I wanted to do this week. Anyways, is I built my own little DCA calculator. It's just a historical representation, going back in history. I used a particular indicator to test if that would make a difference. And the results are really, really interesting. I messed around with it for like an hour with messing around with all my numbers and variables, and ultimately DCAing the same amount every week indefinitely turned out to be the best result.
Yeah, so, I think that's been proven multiple times, right?
There was one slight exception, but you'll have to wait for the video to see
that. My guy, content creator through and through. All right, I think this is actually a really good segue, man, to the next topic that we have about like diversifying and just having your hands in not a few things, but just making sure that you understand and are active in different parts of the market. Deraji, the land sale. What are your thoughts? What are your plans? You don't need to tell us exactly specifically unless you want to. But where's your head at with the land? And are you planning on buying both of the T5s?
I don't think they're going to quite fall to the price that I would be able to afford for that. So I wouldn't necessarily stress out about me being competition there. No, I think land is interesting purely because I'm interested in Illuvium and what the team is building as far as an entire ecosystem. And this being the first land sale, this is absolutely the most speculative, because while the team has done a better job to build a game behind it and an application behind it, we haven't seen either of those 2 products yet. And so it is still a long-term hope. And like, I've been spending a lot of time in the Illuvium Zero channel, and people are trying to estimate like, okay, what's my ROI on this? How quickly can I expect to get this back? I'm like, you're missing a huge piece of the equation right now. And it's incredibly speculative. And so the way that I've phrased it is, right now we're selling the oil wells, but cars haven't been invented yet. And so you think there's going to be this application on the other side. I have confidence in it. But for me, trying to be really realistic in the models, I'm not even trying yet. And so it really, the piece that I do know is how the tiers compare to each other in terms of production. And then the other piece is just the scarcity and the efficiency of playing the game. If you don't have that much time, buy the higher tier because you don't have to put a ton of time into managing multiple lands. And so we know that. And then the other piece that Scoriox and I have chatted a little bit over DMs is the accessibility of different tiers. And so I think there's just so many more people that are able to afford tier 1 that will probably push it to sell higher relative to the other tiers. At the same time, like tier 4, super exclusionary, is that a different audience? Because of the rarity, does that drive it up? And so there may be a dip in the middle. And so I'm targeting around tier 2, tier 3, but really planning to study the first couple of days of the auction unless something really jumps out to me as valuable or wrong or mispriced relative to the others.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for, is like, where is the market inefficient in the pricing, and is it in the price range that I want to go on something like this?
Yeah. So what you reckon, you'll probably not, again, I shouldn't say sit out, but you'll be a lot more patient during the first 2 days, and if anything, use that data, use the data you collect from day 1, day 2, and probably act on day 3. Is that unless you see something like obviously that an obvious opportunity?
Yeah, if there's a tier 4 that's sitting around at 118 minutes in, that's not going to make it to 119 minutes. I'll tell you that. So but that's the kind of stuff, like, is even different zones, do they have a different popularity? And then you get into the whole strategy of people that want to buy blocks of land, 2x2, 3x3, for this idea of an eventual mega city.
Has that been confirmed that we can do that?
Happening.
Has that been confirmed that we can buy blocks of land?
You can't buy them together. You're going to have to buy them individually. But that's something in my mind, because they did say that we haven't seen the map yet of what all is getting sold, but there are clusters.
Yeah.
And so we're going to know, because it's on-chain data, if one wallet has bought all of these 8 plots of a 3x3 and there's one that's coming up, they're going to want that plot. And so they're either going to jump sooner, or somebody else jumps sooner, because they know that other person is going to pay way over market for it, because if they don't have it, they can't complete their 3x3.
Yeah. And you say, you mentioned the thing about a certain region is going to be more popular than others, therefore more valuable. Where are you considering that at all? Like, for you personally, do you care about what region you're at? Is there one that you're trying to go for?
I don't right now, because I think, the difference is, what I understand, like, probability of scanning different alluvials, and you're going to have some different relative compositions of elements and fuels. But again, we're getting the oil wells before the cars, and so we don't know which one is more valuable. And it may be like, we have some resources out of where we think these are going to be used. If your play style goes a certain direction, maybe that's why you want to get into a certain area. But even still, it's going to be random.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the blueprints, for example, I was looking at the map briefly, and I shouldn't really be saying this because this is totally the sort of land I'm going to go for. But I think it was the Crimson Wastes has a high likelihood, because it says it on their little map thing. I need to check it out again after this. But the Crimson Wastes in particular has a high likelihood of Ramfire, Scoriox, and Titan ore. Now, I don't know if you guys have played the beta very much, but those are the 3 staples of the beta right now, outside of Adorius, right? That is some serious popularity focused in one area, which is something people are going to have to consider. But I think Deraji is right. I think the types of resources that are on there, and they're randomly generated, I think if anything's going to dictate price, it's going to be that. Because what I see happening is you're going to have, because each fuel type is used for a different thing. One's used for travel, I think. One's used for merging
healing
materials or whatever.
Yeah.
And one's used for evolving alluvials or something like that. I don't know. They're all used for different things, right? And I see one of those things, at the very least, being more popular than the other 2. What this means is that I would see that as typically having a higher value when selling resources. So if your land has a lot of those plots, your land is going to be worth more than other lands of the same tier, I think. But we won't know that until we mint the thing. So it's still a little bit like a lottery, which I'm a fan of. I enjoy that. But it's going to keep things really interesting. But I think it does give a lot of credit to higher tier lands, because you have a greater chance of just getting a good spread of stuff. So it's not going to matter nearly as much. Not to mention your production is going to go up anyway. So, but there's so many variables here that I would just say, if you see a good price and maybe an area you like, go for it. But don't FOMO in the first day or anything. But
yeah. I think, again, like what I mentioned in my video, one of my previous videos, and I think even Kieran Vulcan said the same thing. Have a price that you're willing to pay. Like, predetermine that first. That way, if you do decide to FOMO a little bit above that price. Not just, don't go in there like completely unprepared and just say, oh my God, everyone's buying. And because you could also see like whales possibly buying at a premium on day 1. And like, I don't want to say tricking like it's malicious, but giving the illusion that everyone is buying at a premium, and it could cause everyone else to be like, oh, I don't want to miss out paying at a premium when they don't have to. So just stay calm. Like, again, even going back to what Doraji said about the whole invest what you're willing to lose. I won't say invest what you're willing to lose, but like just be prepared of how much you're willing to spend and put aside for it. So that way you're actually going in prepared and you're not just getting blindsided. I think that's the phrase, right? I don't play football. Getting blindsided. So yeah, be prepared and have that kind of frame that you're going to work with. And I think that's going to help a lot. And again, I think Scoriox is going to be doing a live stream. I don't know if that's been confirmed publicly yet, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be doing a live stream, maybe not for as long, but I'm sure I'll be on there. I'm sure a lot of the content creators are going to do that. Just hop into the live streams, find out what the conversation is, see where they're at, and get information that way as well. Yeah.
The one thing I will challenge real quick, TSG, is there is this assumption like it's going to be whales that jump in early. I'm not putting it on whales. I'm putting it on the misinformed. Because I still see in Discord a ton of people that don't understand the Dutch auction pricing format. And so they're still like, oh my God, the prices are ridiculous. Like, no, it's the starting price. In 11 minutes, it's going to be 25% lower, and not understanding that curve. And so I think that's the piece of the folks that are watching this type of video, or that read me or follow Scoriox, like us doing the math and doing more analytics on it. Like, you are not the average person that is going in and seeing Metaverse land sale, Illuvium, first AAA game. You got to have a piece of it. Like, that's who's probably going to come in and screw things up early.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting. If you're misinformed, outnumbers everyone else, and they do buy up everything at the max prices. I see them actually selling at a loss on the secondary. So I still wouldn't FOMO in if everyone's buying at max prices. I just wouldn't buy the land. I wait till the second land sale personally.
Yeah,
I will cry into my revdis if everything sells at 100%. I won't buy a thing.
Yeah. That's funny. Is there like, is there anything that you want to say, Deraji, to educate them, like the misinformed? Is there like, do you have a video specifically going to how these Dutch auctions work? Scoriox, do you guys have any kind of points of reference that you can point to people so they can get educated on this?
So I did an article a couple weeks ago that is on Infoluvial that's like everything you need to know about the Dutch auction. And it even goes into some of my predictions of where I think it's going to net out total sales wise, given this was before the recent market dip and everything that happened with Luna. So I think that's adjusted a little bit. But I still have some benchmarks in my mind of where this is going to end up. And like high level, I don't expect the average sale price to be more than 50% of starting price, and probably between 40 and 30 is what I have in my mind, just from a total sale. And it's still incredibly successful. And so if I'm seeing properties the first day they're selling at 75% of starting price, I'm like, that's way too high. It's going to come down. Or is there that much demand and I'm just going to sit this one out?
Yeah. How much do you, because you've done a lot of calculations, and again, I know because we've already talked about this, I'm not going to again pretend like we haven't. How much do you think that we're going to net from this experience, from this land sale? Like, what are your estimates and educated assumptions?
Yeah, so if you ignore tier 5 and you just say tier 1 through 4, the almost 20,000 units, if everything sells at 50% of starting price, as of today, that's $160 million, which would be hugely successful.
160, Jesus.
Yeah, 160. If everything sells at 25% of starting price, it's still 78 million. And like that to me feels like a reasonable bookend of the truth feels somewhere in the middle of that. And I'm not entirely sure where. And then you get into this layer on top of it of, does tier 1 disproportionately pull that up? Does tier 4 bring it down? And so that's the balance to have as well. But just high level, 100 to 150 feels very successful and very doable for this community.
Yeah. And I haven't done the technical work because, again, that's not my area of expertise. Scoriox, I know you made a video recently. Do your numbers kind of align with that, or?
Yeah, that sounds right, I think. But you're still not getting much revdis because of how much SRV2 is in circulation. I think the big picture is missing a little bit here sometimes, right? I don't really see this so one and done. Okay, that's not really the point of this. It doesn't matter if SRV is burnt. It doesn't matter if it is burnt. Whatever. Let's ignore that for a second. What's interesting here is your land sale happens, your Illuvitars happen, your Illuvials happen. Have you guys seen the sort of volume on OpenSea? That's 3 major collections of secondary market sales turning over every single day, not including all the other sales. That is a lot of volume in any market, and there's so many varieties. Then you've got lots of other ones, materials and everything as well, and then you've got merch. There's a lot of continuous sales here, and the land sale is all it really is what kicks it off. What you want is a lot of people turning them over on the secondary market. And if the prices drop a lot, that just means it's going to take them longer to get up to higher prices, which means more volume turnover, which means more revdis, really, and potentially more in the long run over the next 5-6 years even, or whatever. But it's just a really interesting, you should try and have a bit more of a macro picture sometimes when you're considering this sort of stuff.
Because every transaction in the secondary market has a percentage that goes to revdis, correct?
They haven't confirmed what that percentage is, or if they're going to do it. But there is a
percentage.
They have a choice. They don't have to put a percentage on it. But I think the sentiment has been that they will. But I guess we could always write a proposal, couldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, one of you guys, I'm sure, is going to get on the council. We have a pretty good chance having 2 of you here. And actually I think that was a good segue, man. Like going with that, about the SRV being banned. For both of you guys, again, because you guys are the technical masters here, I'm legitimately just acting like a moderator. What percentages of SILV do you think we're going to be burning in this land sale? Based on how much we have out, not like the total amount. I don't know, Scoriox, do you want to go first and let Doraji see what he thinks?
I've been using Deraji's number, to be honest.
Doraji. Yo, Deraji is Yoda over here.
I think Deraji's been saying 70 to 75. That's pretty much what I believe. I think we could go higher. I think we could burn we can't burn the entire thing. But I think every single wallet that holds enough SRV2 for a tier 1, I think we could burn them all out, everything above it, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think that's very possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with my numbers.
I agree with my numbers. Yeah, that's a solid statement. Can you give us your reasoning behind it? Your reasoning.
As of today, there's about 70 million in value of SILV2. If we hit that 70%, that's 50 million. And so it's taken 50 million off the top that's not revdis. You take that back to the numbers we just said of 160 to 80. That's still, say, 110 million to revdis. If we go all the way down to 25% of starting price, now you're only at 30 million in revdis. So huge hit, huge impact of SILV2. But that's the number I have in my mind at this point, given current levels, is 70%, about 50 million.
And if those numbers do happen, like if we do lose, if we get rid of 70% SILV and we don't get as much revenue distribution because of the whole situation, what are your thoughts on that? What are your feelings? I shouldn't say do you care, because I'm trying to be more professional, but the sentiment, what I'm trying to ask you is do you care about that? Because obviously you're a long-term holder. All right, so you don't get the bag right now. How do you feel? Does it bother you at all? Are you indifferent to it?
I think you nailed it. It's your timing perspective on this. Yeah. And for me, I'm staked for 12 months in all of mine. I do have some coming up, but I have no intention of pulling them out, especially given where the price is right now. Still earning from yield farming, and we're just now seeing product. And so if I don't have that sell in mind, I don't care, because it's going to get used eventually anyway. And the other thing, to Scoriox's point, land sale is just one aspect of this. We've got Illuvitars coming up shortly thereafter. Once we get to open beta, that's going to be more burned. So no, use it.
Okay, yeah,
doesn't matter in the long term.
Yeah,
I think there has been a slight misconception, because I've had a couple people ask me this question over the past week or two. where they're talking about how the SRV2 will burn ILV and stuff like that. But that's not really how it works. The ILV's effectively already been burnt. So really the impact, it's just going to be over the long term anyways. It's just eventually this SRV has to be gotten out of the system, flushed out of the system. And then it's all revdis, everything that comes in. But I think the scale of the open beta could be, I think we could be seeing over 10 million a day easy. Like it really, at some point when the beta is doing really well and the game's getting a lot of traction and stuff, we're seeing 10, 20 million a day. It's possible. It's tough, but it's possible. And what I'm just saying there is then it would take 3 days to burn out the entire amount of SRV2 that we have in that reality.
Do you guys know what the
yeah.
I was going to say, do you guys know what the because I don't know off the top of my head what Axie was doing on the daily or monthly? Do you guys remember what that was?
I can't remember.
I want to say it was in the 10 million range, probably at the peak.
It was in the 10. And that was like at its peak, right?
I think they had like 200 million in a month, so it's close to that. Yeah.
So 7-ish million a day.
Yeah. Do you guys how long do you think, because I don't, again, I'm going to be honest, I try to be objective and not just kind of say just like say whatever. I don't see us hitting that number soon. Like, I think it's going to take some time. Maybe, again, this is complete speculation, but depending on how we go, maybe 6 months, a year, maybe longer than that to start hitting those numbers. Do you guys think I'm super conservative? Do you reckon we're going to hit those numbers a lot sooner than that? Like,
I give us 2 weeks.
Jesus, Scoriox.
No. Hear me out. I've seen gamers latch on to games like you wouldn't freaking believe. I've seen crypto people latch on to games like you wouldn't believe. All you need is the spark. The problem is that the big esports tournament or whatever, which is a good spark, is not going to happen till later. But I don't think it will take much. We've already got pro players and things that are really loving the game and enjoying it, all the rest of it. There are lots of big YouTubers that have their eyes on it as well. I don't think it'll take much. I've got to be honest. I don't think it will.
Objectively, for us to reach the peak of Axie, you reckon 2 weeks? Like, objectively? I know 2 weeks is probably a piss take, but...
It's a little bit of a piss take, but I think we're going to be, no matter what I say, I think we're going to be surprised. That's really kind of what I'm saying here. I think no matter what you say, 6 months, 12 months, 2 months, I think no matter what anyone says, everyone is going to be surprised. It's not going to go the way you think. And I think I'm not saying that surprise is going to be less than we expect. I think it's...
I was going to say, you're saying 2 weeks, the surprise is 1 week. Damn!
I think it's going to be higher. No, my 2 week statement was saying that it was going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to be shocked. But I don't know how long that shock's going to take, but I think it's going to happen. I think no one's going to...
What do you reckon, man? Like, how long do you reckon it's going to take for us to hit the peak of Axie? Because it seems like we all agree it's going to happen. Based on like the product that we have, it seems like it's almost impossible for it not to happen. Yeah, go for it.
Just quickly, Steppen took, I think, 3 months less, and I think it surpassed Axie.
No way.
It's a different type of game, but it didn't take much. It was a different genre too. I consider Illuvium a different genre, so just worth considering.
Yeah, maybe I am just super conservative. Yeah, Doraji, what do you think, man? I know like timeframes are just us kind of putting it out there. It doesn't mean much, but
I'll say I'm more on the conservative side, and I think for me it's more about getting, like, you want strong adoption of paid players, but then you need to ensure retention of paid players. And I think that's the challenge with the Axie model that is so different with what Illuvium is doing. And especially given the broader non-crypto community sentiment of the crypto market right now, I think that is the tough sell for a product that is still tied to crypto. And so it's breaking that stigma and making sure that you're communicating to this audience. And like I tweeted at Frobe shared something the other day, and I shared back. It's like, what will really make the difference in when we know Illuvium has made it is when we have gamer friends sharing this Illuvium thing, and in the first 30 seconds of they pitch, they don't say earn, NFT, or blockchain. It's like, it's just this cool game that I want to play. And to them, the less you make it feel different, the more you make it feel like what they're used to, the stronger that adoption and retention is. I just think the more we tie it to crypto and that broader sentiment right now, like that's what we almost have to break to really hit that true mainstream, and that's where we're going to peak.
Yeah, and I think it's because I completely agree with you, but it's like it's interesting because it is different, right? Like the whole ownership of assets is different from what people are used to. But the moment they hear that, their mind kind of switches off and they're like, nah, we don't want to like, so it's finding that balance of, like you say, like presenting it as what they know, but also kind of informing them of that it is better, but finding that balance of how to do that. And yeah, I think it's
but it has to be that order too. It has to be, it's fun. I like this thing. And you get to own the asset. It's in that order that's where you get mainstream.
I completely agree.
I think to clarify, in my head, the Axie Infinity peak is very different to the Illuvium peak. I think the Axie Infinity peak is where Illuvium hits on its step to way, way higher. But you're right. Every game does go through retention ebbs and flows. We're going to hit this point where Illuvium does start to dip a bit and lose off some of that retention. And then the idea is that the next set will come in and
the next set, the next game, whatever it is. And that's why Illuvium is actually really, that's why, I've got like a really good like belief in Illuvium as a whole IP, just because they can do so much with the characters. They've got so many ways to kind of reach out and spread out and keep it relevant. Like just putting like a fun Mario Party style game, a Mario Kart type game. Mario really makes good games. But just like there's so many ways to kind of keep people interested in the IP. So and then you have the diehards that only play the original auto battler. You have the diehards that only play like the Mario Kart version. So I think they're really building it up. And like if we say that we have a 5 to 10 year time frame on Illuvium, I think that's a really good place to be in. Because I feel like the opportunities are insane. Deraji, I want to ask you as well, kind of a hard segue, but I want to ask you about what do you think is going to happen to the price of SILV after the land sale? Do you reckon the prospect of Illuvitars is going to help it hold its value? Do you think that it's just going to drop and people are going to do you think people are going to spend all of that SILV? Do you reckon they're going to try to time the market and try and profit as it goes up? Because I think that's we all agree that it probably will go up closer to the land sale. We might be wrong, but it's just something that we've all agreed on. What do you think about all of that?
Now, I've looked at it as a simple supply and demand situation. Of right now, there has been a ton of supply of people that have been staking that want liquidity. And so they're the ones that have been selling to take liquidity out, happy with 40 cents on the dollar relative to ILV, or a futures play of, I think ILV is going down. And so the people that have sold on the way down did okay. Now they can buy back in cheaper. Yeah. We're now having the first instance of demand in the next 2 weeks with land. Yeah. Unless Illuvitars have a date and it's not just soon, you've now pulled that demand curve out again. And so now you just have supply. I think there's two things that play against that slightly. They're different than us being on this side of land sale. And number one is if 70% of the supply gets used, that available supply is way down. And two, unlock is coming. And so a lot of the like OG whales that have been in since day one on staking, they don't need to claim as SILV to get liquidity now because they're having unlocking ILV coming out and that you can sell one for one. And so why claim something else that I'm going to get 50 cents on the dollar for when I have the actual thing that's essentially the equivalent that I can sell right now? And so I think it's going to feel different, but it will drop. It depends on those two pieces, but I think date on Illuvitar really is that big one.
Yeah. I think. Do
you think SRV2 will climb a lot before land sale? I get a lot of questions about. Do you think SRV2 will hit the price of ILV?
So here's my not financial advice answer of if I was a betting man and could put $1 on it of what I think is going to happen. I think by the day of the land sale, we're at 80 to 90% of ILV. And then I think by end of day 2, that's dropping. Because I think at that point, it's the people that do want to unload at the current price, don't want to carry it through to a Illuvitar sale. And so I think we see this curve happen over the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
I had a few people ask me if they think it will go above the price of ILV. And that's a really funny one, because what happens when it hits the price of ILV is everyone claims an SILV. There's no point in claiming an ILV. So I think if you
it's going to be self-correcting very quickly, though.
Very fast. I think as soon as you get to that 80-90% mark, everyone's going to dump their supply straight onto it, and it's going to drop really, really fast. So
and why there always has to be that gap there is because of transaction fees. Like you're going to use it, you're going to pull this over. And so even if it's trading at par, you're losing money relative to ETH because you have to buy it.
But I mean, the closer it gets, the more sense it makes to take SLV and put it in SLP pool and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think that 80 to 90%, I'm also 90, I think is, again, this is just, I haven't done any like research on this. This is just what I think. I think 90% might be a bit of a stretch, but I think that 70 to 80 is possible. If it hits 90, that's going to be wild to see what happens. Like, because I think if it hits 90, I think like Scoriox is saying, I think people are just going to start claiming and selling it, because why wouldn't they? I think that's going to be wild to actually see if that happens. Cool, man. Yo, the last question. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to ask Doraji any questions, start dropping them down in the comments now, and I'm sure Scoriox will pick some out that are good. So make them good. Now, so Deraji, a question I wanted to ask you, man, is what land do you think is going to be the best value? Like, do you reckon it's going to be it's more efficient? I don't know if that's the word, but do you reckon it's better value to maybe buy multiple tier ones or a single higher tier? What do you think is going to be more efficient? Because I'm sure you've got the data on it.
Yeah. Well, this is the tough one. Like, we know half of the equation right now. We know the production efficiency. We don't know demand.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to tier 1 being that much more accessible, tier 4 being that much more rare.
Yeah.
And so just on that information alone, it feels a sweet spot, maybe tier 3, maybe tier 2, but it applies to that demand of where are things selling and who actually shows up at the auction. What do they want?
Yeah. Scoriox, you actually did some research, and I've had a look as well, but I've forgotten. But the SILV holders, because tier 2, like tier 1 seems very accessible for I think a lot of people. Tier 2 starts to price a lot of people out, I think.
No, T2 wasn't too bad.
T2 wasn't too bad. Yeah, talk to us about it.
I think T2 wasn't too bad. I think T3 started to price people out.
Yeah, that's definite.
I can't remember what my figures were specifically, but yeah, something I am definitely considering is kind of like what they offer. I think T1 is really accessible. Okay, so a lot of people are definitely going to be going for that and so on and so forth. T2, really hard to gauge because it doesn't have the landmark. But that being said, I think a lot of people that can afford T3, and this is probably a stat I should have looked at. It's probably a good one to look at. The people that can afford T3, are those the same people that can afford T4?
Yeah.
If they are, then you'd expect them to go for the T4 instead, right? So then you have this spot in between T2 and T3, and I think T3 will drop the furthest. I really do. I think T4, as Deraji said, really scarce, and lots more valuable than T3 because of the landmark. So we found out recently, I think T3 has the element landmark and T4 has the fuel landmark. We found out recently you can't sell elements. They're not something you can sell on the market. They're used to help you build up your area. So by extension, you'd say that a T4 landmark is like 3 or 4 times more valuable than a T3 landmark because it's a fuel landmark.
Yeah.
So that means that a T4 is a much better bang for your buck than T3 is going to be. So I figure out of those two, anyone that can afford both will choose T4 in theory. But yeah, T2 is this weird no man's land. I want to see how that one plays out because I think a lot of people can afford tier 1 and anyone that can afford tier 2 is like, maybe I just get a few tier 1s, I don't know. I don't know how
because
people.
even I'm considering that because I'm like I should be able to get a tier 2. I think that's like if I click the button fast enough, like I'm sure I'd be able to get it. But even that, I'm considering: do I get a tier 2 or do I get multiple tier 1s? Especially now that we've got the lending possibility, right? It's like, does it make more sense to buy a few tier 1s and just lend it out? But then again, I have to consider the things that we talked about, because I think that tier 1 is definitely going to be sold at a premium, and more of a premium compared to tier 2. So it's about finding that out. There's a question here. Do you guys reckon? Do you guys anticipate the land will be more impactful than Illuvitars for the game's adoption / profit? What do you guys think? Scoriox?
Well, the game will. All right. Well,
I can. Yeah, I was gonna say I can go first. I can make a short thing.
Yeah, no, you go.
I can land. Yeah, I can land short term, like, because it's an immediate impact, is going to be much larger, especially with the T5s. It's hard to disregard that. Short term, I think the land is going to have a lot more impact for rev. It's hard to say for revdis, but like for revenue generated, because obviously land is coming first, so probably more SLV2 is going to be used for land. But if we take away the SLV2 and just talk revenue, I think land is going to do a lot more short term, and Illuvitars is going to have more of a long tail. It's not going to be like, the first 3 days we're going to go crazy with Illuvitars. It's going to be however long they decided, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months is going to be a consistent thing compared to land. That's what I think.
Actually, no.
Nah?
I think it was Kieran said in an interview. Nothing set in stone, obviously, but he was considering they have 3 batches of Illuvitars ready.
Already,
3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days.
He said that. He said that they considered 3 days.
What he was suggesting to give them, because he's heard a lot of people in the community saying they're infinite, they have no scarcity, blah 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 blah. So that's what he's thinking in his head and potentially putting forward. I agree with you. I think selling them for a longer period of time will make more sense to me personally. But yeah, so just worth considering that. In terms of impact, I think there's lots of different ways to impact the ecosystem, not just revdis and stuff like that. I think don't underestimate a city builder game. I'm personally really excited for the city builder, because that's the sort of game I do quite enjoy, like on the train or on the bus or whatever else. And I think that's got its own sort of value. Someone might see you playing it and be like, what's that? You're like, it's Illuvium. Go check it out or whatever. And I'm not saying word of mouth is going to spread across the globe or whatever, but a lot of people do look for something and go, oh, Illuvium's pretty cool. Oh, they have a free mobile game you can play. You can try out. It's like a T4 land and stuff. They go, this is pretty cool. I like this character. Maybe I'll try the main game. And that's gonna impact many parts of the world. Just the fact that there's a mobile game that in existence, whereas Illuvitars, I think you're going to find a lot of people lose money on NFT PFP projects over the next 3 months. So
100%.
I think there could be some negative press. I think that's worth considering.
What do you reckon, Deraji?
I think you have 2 different audiences. And so because I'm totally with Scoriox in this of like, I want to play the city builder. Like, it has an application. There's potential to get revenue off of it. But at the same time, it's actually what I want to play. And so there's value to that. And if you look at Illuvitars, it's more of a flex, show off in game, show off over the future of the project, that I have this Gen 1 super rare maxed out Illuvitar. And like that to me is Kieran in a nutshell of like, I don't see that, which is kind of the very different audience and market. So really a question of what is the relative composition of the community and the people that have awareness at this early stage. But that it's 2 groups, that there is an overlap of folks that are going to do both, but it's who shows up.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the Illuvitar side. I want to get the land for the blueprints especially, and for the investment side. The gameplay side, I'm actually not that interested in. I'm going to be honest. But that Illuvitar side, definitely, like the whole, I got the first set, max it out, or not even max it out, but just like, I really want to get one that like I think represents me. Like, I really want to get the Komodo dragon and just like accessorize him like with just some cool shit and just be like, oh, yo, that's mine. Like, so for me, I really like that flex side, that collectability side. So Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's definitely, like, again, even look at us right now. There's two clear audiences. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah,
I think we're outnumbered though. Deraji is the first one to say he's interested in the game like me.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of people, man. No, it might not be the majority, but there are a lot of people that are keen to the game.
Sorry, you and I can just enjoy our tier 3s.
Yeah.
And everyone's just looking at their Illuvitars. You guys are playing the game and we're just looking like, yo, this looks mad. But yeah, cool. Are there any other questions in the chat? Otherwise, I think we can wrap this.
Groovy Daddy has put a question. I don't think it was directed at us, but I think it's interesting. What did he say? He said, funds aside, I think we're going to consider funds, but funds aside, would you rather have a 2x2 plot in one region or one plot in each region? Okay. So I personally think for anyone that doesn't know, the regions will likely have a large impact on blueprints more than anything else. So the idea is that you get blueprints for a variety of different types of alluvials, right?
Yeah.
And the 2x2 plot won't have any effect on you at the start. I mean, unless you put it in a really popular area. But down the road with mega cities and stuff, it could give you some serious advantages. It's a little bit like that, but how I would see it is I see trading as becoming a big part of this game. I think trading my Atlas blueprint for your Fury blueprint will become a big part of the game. I think that's something, especially guilds are going to foster a lot more than anything else. But I'd like to see that a big part of the game. I don't know if it will. I know it's a big part of Pokemon, and I hope they build more mechanics in to foster trading in that sort of way. For example, Pokemon, if you trade a Pokemon to someone else, then both of your Pokemon that you traded will actually get more experience points.
Yeah.
Will get more experience points when they battle. So it's like you should be trading Pokemon because it gives you advantages. And I like to see some systems like that come into Illuvium, hopefully. What I'm saying from that is, by extension, I think a 2x2 plot in a popular region is going to serve you far better. Not only will you get the benefit of mega cities down the road and potentially other benefits for resources and things like that, if you hoard all the fire blueprints that people might really want, you don't have to sell them. You can trade them for all the other blueprints if you want to, because you potentially have the most valuable ones.
Yeah. I'm on the same. I'm definitely going for the one in each region. No, that's all I wanted to say. I'm going for the same thing, one in each region.
No, I said 2x2 in one region.
Oh, 2x2 one region? Oh, no, I'd go for one in each region. Just to diversify the skins that I get.
I feel bad that I keep voting one direction and breaking the tie here, but I'm going with Scoriox again.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
For me, it's a completely
we're not friends anymore.
It's a completely different reason, and I would say, like, which is going to be more accessible later once we actually know. And I think it's going to be harder to complete a 2x2 plot later on, or it's going to be more expensive. Then I just need to buy one random plot. Like, hey, Crimson Waste is way more valuable. I want the blueprints there. I need one. Versus I want to come up with a 4x4 or a 9x9 later. And while we're going to have 4 more land sales, this is probably the one with the least visibility. And so I think, is this the lowest price? Is now the time, if you want to go for that mega city possibility, now's the time to do it. Or you scout the blockchain and you see who's got 3 or who's got 8 or 7 of a block, and then you buy their plot as your one plot in another region. I think that's a good play if you're willing to put the time in to figure that out.
Yeah. Yo, look at Doraji out here showing his experience with like long-term thinking, because I didn't even consider that. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be a lot harder to get that 2x2 in the future. So to lock that in now makes a lot more sense. So that's actually a really good perspective. Yo, guys, I am so sorry, but I do need to wrap this up. I have an interview with Warlord, and we've already gone over an hour. I hope that's fine. I apologize.
Let's wrap it up.
Cool. Yo, so Doraji, thank you so much for coming on, man. I honestly enjoyed our chat earlier today, and now again. I'll be putting up my chat with Warlord in like 5 minutes, so I'll probably finish that, and then I'll put up your our chat. But is there anything else that you kind of want to leave us with just in general.
I really appreciate the opportunity to finally chat with you two. Definitely happy to be on anytime, and agree with Scoriox and not you. So that's
yo, my guy. Yeah, that's why these guys are both running for council, right? Not me, because they probably understand this shit way more than I do. But yeah, cool. Yeah, honestly, man, like I said, we'll probably be doing live streams for the land sale, and would love to have you on again, because obviously your data and your insights going to be super valuable. Scoriox, anything you want to kind of say to close out?
There is a super chat for a question, so I'm going to answer that. You can drop out if you need, TSG, and
I'll stick around.
With Deraji. So just quickly, I Ain't the Herb says, I've heard a theory that whales will dump the price of SILV2 right before the land sale. How will that affect the land sale? It won't. SILV2 has the purchasing power of ILV. If that drags down ILV with it, it could affect the land sale, but that seems unlikely. If you're talking about them dumping ILV before the land sale, that seems really silly. I feel like any whales are actually holding ILV. So what I would expect, and I've expected this for a long time, I reckon they could pump ILV. I mean, in the current climate, this is less likely. This was more likely in the previous climate where crypto was trading sideways. Currently, a lot less likely, but it's possible. And I'm not saying send it to $1,000. That would be a lot. I'm saying even like 20, 30%. 20, 30% on a 80 ETH starting price is a huge increase in purchasing power. It's massive. All right. Yeah. So like that's like $100 if they could add to the price, which is like 100 million or probably less, 50 million maybe. They would need to move the price. It sounds like a lot, but honestly, I'm not convinced it is. So did you guys want to say something quickly on that?
I agree. I think that there's a high chance of them pumping ILV than not, because it benefits them. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Deraji.
I agree. I think I'll layer a nuance on of it looks like it's going to be successful, then there's the value of, is ILV cheap right now? Do you want to get in and start collecting revdis, stake it ahead of time? There's that component. Pumping the price is actually slightly worse for revenue distribution because you're pumping the value of SILV2. And so it really is, what's your perspective? Are you trying to get it for purchasing power today? Or are you trying to maximize the return to the DAO of more ETH is used? So that's why I'm kind of torn on this. I don't think the SILV2 pump is going to matter. Like it's going to hit that 80 to 90%. But I don't see anything too crazy because it may offset of what happens to ILV. I do think we start reversing the trend with a use case and with a good event relative to the price of ETH. I do think that's something that we are going to see turn around potentially at least until unlock starts. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining me, Doraji, joining me in TSG, and thanks everyone for the chat. It's been awesome. That was a great question, Herb. Thank you for that again. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat.
Don't forget to check out the Augment Clip channel. Just wanted to plug that in again. Don't forget to check that out. Again, daily clips. And if you don't watch the entire episode, just focus on the clips. Cool.
One more thing, super quick. Election in 8 days. Vote.
Yes.
Decentralization.
Yeah. Call to action. Vote.
I was also going to say, I've got Deraji's articles linked down in the description below. So definitely go check that out. I think the top one is the big land sale one. It might be the second one. I think it's the top one. So definitely go check out that article. The read is really good. I'm sure many of you will enjoy it. It's probably not for everyone. It can get a bit detailed, but I really loved it. So no, definitely go check it out. It's actually pretty good. It's probably more digestible than my videos, to be honest. Definitely go check that out. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today. Have a good day.
Awesome. Peace out, guys.